Hi, I'm Ben Mankiewicz. Welcome to TCM. Throughout November, we've been looking at movies that help shape the culture. And tonight I'm joined once again by critic and writer Molly Haskell, really one of the most distinguished critics of her generation. Molly, such a thrill to have you talking about movies with us and helping us put these important films in some perspective.
Well, it is for me too, Ben. Thank you.
Film we have now from 1979, Jack Lemmon, Jane Fonda, and Michael Douglas in The China Syndrome, directed by James Bridges. This movie benefited in incalculable ways from the timing of its release and then the accident at 3 Mile Island, the nuclear power plant in Pennsylvania. Molly, how would you assess the impact that this film, China Syndrome, had?
Well, I think it's very powerful. And as you say, it seemed almost prescient because 3 Mile Island happened, the nuclear disaster in Pennsylvania, right at the time the film was opening, more or less. So this was something that was on everybody's minds. I think it's amazing. It's fairly technical. You learn a lot about, the different structures and the pipes and the this and the that. And yet it's really always interesting and visually interesting. The scene where Jane Fonda and Michael Douglas go to this nuclear plant and they're in the enclosed balcony overlooking, and something happens, and Jack Lemmon is at the center of it all, and you can just see it on his face. And by the way, he's fantastic in this, I think, as almost always. But he is such a great warrior. You watch him worrying, and a coffee cup shakes, and they know something's gone wrong, and suddenly the whistles are blowing, and they get out of there. Michael Douglas has surreptitiously taken photographs, taken a video of the event, which he's, of course, not supposed to have. And so the whole film is about Michael Douglas's struggle to expose it, and everybody else's, the companies and the TV channel, attempt to suppress it.
It's funny, you mentioned how the film, and it's such a tribute to James Bridges, who worked on the screenplay as well, the director, that he turns a movie with a bunch of technical information that is going to be foreign to nearly 100% of the audience, and yet makes it gripping. This is cinematic storytelling at its finest, in a sense, when you can get people to care about something that is totally foreign to them.
Exactly. Another thing about it, the movie doesn't feel the need to have a love interest, that nobody has to get together. I mean, there's a moment where Fonda meets Jack Lemmon. It's a wonderful scene in a bar where they have this kind of uneasy rapport. But the love story is Jack Lemmon and the nuclear plant, where he's been all his life. He said, "This is my life." And this is where all the anguish comes from, watching this whole thing curdle around him.
Yeah, that's I never even quite thought of that. But it's true. They're in a bar, right? It's late at night.
Yeah.
And, and they are clearly, they're drawn to each other in some way, but they're drawn to each other because they care about the same things, it turns out. And then also, at any moment, in 9 out of every 10 movies where Michael Douglas and Jane Fonda are in this situation, they would get together. And there's no hint of that at all.
Not at all. In fact, they're at loggerheads a lot of the time because she still wants to keep her job. He wants to go off on his own, and she just wants to play by the book as much as she can. But he shows her how dangerous this whole thing has been and how important it is to expose it. And Jack Lemmon puts it, not only his job, but really ends up putting his life on the line for it.
I think it's fair to say that it raised awareness significantly of the dangers of nuclear power, and at a bare minimum, the need to significantly regulate it to make sure safety protocols are followed as closely as possible.
It's true, and the argument's still continuing about whether or not to use nuclear fuel. There was that terrific HBO series on Chernobyl in Ukraine.
Yeah, I think anybody with an interest in great storytelling or just with an interest in movies about nuclear power should definitely check out Chernobyl on HBO Max. Really, really good. All right, Molly, let's take a look at the film. As always, a great conversation. Thank you.
Indeed, it was.
Here it is, from 1979, also with Wilford Brimley in a critical role, The China Syndrome. I am Ben Mankiewicz. Welcome back as we continue our conversation about movies that have helped shape the culture. I'm joined once again by film critic, writer, Molly Haskell. Molly, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Ben. It's great to be here.
So one of my favorite moments, I don't know what person who loves movies who doesn't love Wilford Brimley, but there's just a little moment at the end of the movie, just when it seems like maybe they're not going to get the story out, where Wilford Brimley gets angry. And he's just, and you don't even know, he's such a good actor. He gets angry that he's sort of being escorted out. He's angry at Jane Fonda for sort of bullying him into giving an honest answer, which is her job. And he gets mad, like only Wilford Brimley could get mad. And then he looks at Jane Fonda, and there's a moment where I really think you don't quite know what he's going to say. And he ends up saying the right thing.
The truth will come out, and people will know my friend Jack Adele wasn't a lunatic. He was a hero.
It's just a lovely little movie moment made possible by a really, really good actor.
I think you're absolutely right. And he's just a great working class guy. He's a little over his head in some of this. He doesn't talk the talk of nuclear power, but he's there when you need him. And he's torn because he adores Jack Lemmon. They're best friends, and yet at the same time, it can't be that bad, can it? I think one of the things that it's not just the suits. Of course, they're the villains. They want to cut corners. I mean, it could be not just nuclear power. It could be cutting costs on construction, endangering lives, the Miami condo. So it's the tendency of executive to cut corners. But it's also the idea that none of us wants to hear terrible news. I mean, we want to believe that everything's okay. So when they do the investigation, they have to do an investigation. And Jack Lemmon thinks that he's going to get it, or that Wilfred Brimley's going to be the fall guy. In fact, there's such a cover-up. They say nothing happened. Everything's fine. So this is what is really bothersome to the ones with integrity.
So what are the challenges in general in the late 70s and in the early 2020s of making a studio picture? And I realize I don't even 100% know what I mean when I say studio picture anymore, but a very mainstream release that delivers a social message that is clearly trying to make a difference on a certain social issue. What are the challenges?
Well, I think the problem is that they've gotten a bit of a bad rap, and sometimes deservedly so, as message pictures. They're preaching to the converted. That's the problem that I think they run into. And it can be very annoying when you feel like you're being preached to. So I think these are all the things it runs into, that it has to counter with humor, with great acting, with just not sounding preachy, somehow not sounding preachy. And it has to tap into something universal and into inner conflicts people have with themselves, the ambivalence of individuals.
Molly, thanks very much. As always, illuminating conversation.
Enjoyed it, Ben.
Molly and I are done for the night, though she will be back tomorrow night with 2 more films that help shape the culture. Up next tonight, Eddie Muller has Noir Alley from 1947, Ann Sheridan, Lou Ayres, and Zachary Scott in The Unfaithful. It's next on TCM.